Welcome back, everyone. It's Michael here with Offshore Citizen, and we are talking today about the subject of Georgia and doing business in Georgia. So I've got some other videos on there. It's an interesting place to visit, and we can have a whole lengthy conversation about it. But the thing that I'm really going to talk about today is why Georgia has really become a not good place to do business anymore, which is really, really unfortunate. And I'll kind of dive into what's going on behind that. But to give you some background, we've banked in Georgia for many years, okay? Many years, probably, I don't know, maybe 2014-ish, something like that was when we first started getting set up there. We liked their banking quite a bit. TBC and Bank of Georgia, both good, easy to work with banks. Back then, you were able to open bank accounts for offshore companies, which is fantastic. The only problem was, it was difficult to get there, but they had great online banking. The customer service is fantastic. We really appreciated working with those banks, okay? Unfortunately, what ended up happening was they stopped accepting offshore companies, more or less. The only way you could do it was through wealth management accounts, and there was kind of limits on that. But that was fine because at first there was an ability to operate with companies in Georgia, and we would first do that through, there's free trade zone companies, which were zero tax. They were quite expensive to set up and maintain, but hey, that was potentially worth it, and a lot of people set up there. It wasn't something that I was particularly, super fond of, but they also got something called virtual trade zone companies, and that was very interesting. And they also modified their tax rules in order to be quite competitive. Like, Georgia has a very interesting tax system. There's a bunch to love about what Georgia has set up for a number of reasons. So they have a similar tax system to Estonia in terms of how they tax distributions versus profits and things like this. They had possibilities of getting much lower taxes, which was fantastic, and they were not on blacklists, so that was also good. So we would look at, for example, people based in Portugal could operate through Georgia, very interesting, because it wasn't on the blacklist, etc. And there's a variety of things like this. Okay, so that was quite nice. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was Georgia, because they were one of the few countries that didn't sign on to CRS, the Common Reporting Standard, and yet still had good banking, sort of became a hotbed for the wrong types of people. And this is something that I would say in general is worth noting, okay? In general, if countries are too easy to get set up with, they really are the types of places that it's great for money launderers and criminals, then that's a bad thing for you. You don't want to be there, because over the long term, you're running a legitimate business. You're, selling on Amazon, selling, doing your drop shipping business, doing affiliate marketing, providing some sort of IT service, whatever it is that you're doing. It's an actual legit, you're not a criminal, right? Well, the problem is when it attracts a whole bunch of criminals in, you're gonna get, it's kind of the bad apple spoils the bunch concept, right? This is really not good. It's great, and we've seen it, it happened in Cyprus, right? It happens in Montenegro, again, Latvia, now Georgia, right? And a number of other places as well. There's something like that in Andorra with Banca Privata, so on and so forth, right? There's been a bunch of cases where this has happened, and it's really not particularly useful, not wonderful for us, right? So what is the climate today? Well, unfortunately, over the last maybe year, maybe a little bit less than a year, there has been a situation where they have more or less made it impossible for foreigners to do real business, even if they're operating through a Georgian company. So first, what happened quite a while ago was free zone companies basically had an impossibility of getting bank accounts. It was just very difficult, right? And in fact, those free zone companies mostly weren't accepted anywhere, right? They weren't accepted, the extreme was they were not being accepted in Macedonia in a bunch of cases. In Macedonia, you would think is a super easy place to get banking, but it turns out not so much. So that was an issue. Now, again, I wasn't such a big person on the free zone companies. It was like, okay, better off to pay a little bit of tax, but have this nice stability. But then what ended up happening was, according to what I'm told by some of the bankers, etc., was they started to get visits from various members of authorities of other places who basically, show them a badge or something and say, hey, look, do you realize you have clients in such and such? And that really spooked them and caused things to close off. They became much more risk averse, so that today In my experience, if you're not a Georgian resident, you're going to have a very difficult time opening up a bank account for a company, unless you have, maybe if you have a Georgian resident director, you can maybe go around that. But generally speaking, if you're just a foreigner who owns a Georgian company, good luck opening an account. Now, it used to be, the first change that happened was they said, okay, you have to have operations in Georgia. So you'd say, okay, great. We're going to say, I don't mind opening an operation there. I don't mind setting up an office, hiring some people, wages are low, office space is cheap, no problems. Happy to do that. But then you got to this point where I was like, well, hang on a minute. Even if that is the case and you're not a Georgian resident or you don't have a Georgian resident director, we're going to cause you problems. And so that ripple effect was really not good, really, really not good. It was very problematic in terms of being able to get banking. So the truth is you can still get bank accounts for Georgian companies potentially elsewhere, right? You can say, okay, great, I'm going to get a bank account in Bulgaria, I'm going to get a bank account in Poland, going to get an EMI account in Latvia or Lithuania, something like this. That's maybe I can get a TransferWise account, whatever. These things are still possibilities, okay? But it's mostly been eroded. And one of the things that was so nice about, I would say there was primarily three really nice things about doing business in Georgia. One was, they have done a great job eliminating bureaucracy. So it was a very easy system. You could form a company quickly and fairly easily. That was very nice. It was a bit of a pain that you either had to go there or send a power of attorney and translations. That was a little bit of a pain. But that being said, not the end of the world. The second thing that was great was their tax system was good. It was not necessarily zero tax or not necessarily that low, but you could have a fair degree of tax efficiency. And the third thing that went along with that was you had great banking. So this combination was wonderful. One of the more recent examples I saw was somebody who they said, okay, great, we'll open the account for you because you have an office and you have employees, but we're only gonna allow you to do domestic Georgian transfers. You can only transfer money to people inside Georgia. Well, for people doing online business, international business, how much of your business comes from Georgia? How many of your suppliers you're paying in Georgia? You're not in Georgia, So that really was a non-starter and ultimately, kind of made a bit of a mess. So the bottom line is that generally for people at this point in time, when they start talking about banking in Georgia and having Georgian companies, etc., unless you're prepared to invest fairly heavily, increase your expenses quite a lot, have Georgian directors, maybe become a Georgian resident yourself, etc. And even then, you could have issues with transfers and who's being sent to and all, just much more hassle than you were going to have before. And unless you're willing to go through all that today, in which case, does it really make sense? Maybe you should just be in UAE or something, right? Maybe you should be in Labuan, maybe you should be in Hong Kong, maybe, a bunch of these places. Unless you're willing to go through that, realistically, it's probably not going to make a ton of sense to operate in Georgia, which, as I said, is really unfortunate because I do like a lot about their system. I would love if it was a little bit better and the way that it was, but that's just not the reality today. And unfortunately, banking in general has gotten fairly complex. So that's the situation. Again, if you have a Georgian company and you're struggling with banking, etc., reach out to us. We'll see what we can do to help you. If there's some reason why you need to go there and set things up, or maybe there's some unique situation where it still makes sense for you to spend, an extra, I don't know, at this point in time, it probably costs you an extra $10,000 a year or something to maintain a company there. If that's the case, you're going to have a local resident director or things like this. Maybe you're going to invest, you're going to become a resident. Perfect. Okay. If that's the case, let us know, and we're happy to help you. And otherwise, if you're looking for alternatives to Georgia, you're saying, okay, well, if I can't be in Georgia, where can I be? I'm talking to people about that these days, right? Where is the new places to set up? Reach out to us, and I'm happy to discuss it with you. So you can look for us on offshorecitizen.net, offshorecapitalist.com. We got lots of other videos and articles and things like this you can check out. Subscribe to this channel, like this video. Hopefully it was useful. Add something in the comments. If you've got some topic you'd like to see us discuss, let us know, and I will see you guys on the next video.